Okay, so we're on page number 171, starting with number 1. It says Mindy's putting this new window in her living room. It is a semicircle on top of a square, so they already divided it for us. How much glass is needed to make the window? Okay, so I'm gonna figure out what I'm working with. So I have a square plus a semicircle, right? So what I'm first gonna do is I'm going to write down my formulas for these, right? So how do you find the area of a square? Length times width, right? What about a semicircle? Does anyone remember? Okay, for a regular circle, it's pi r squared. That's how you find the area of a regular circle. But this is a semicircle, which means it's half of a circle. So instead of pi r squared, I'm gonna do 1/2 times pi r squared, right? So that's what my formulas are for these. Now I can just fill in the numbers that I have. Okay, so what is the length of this square? 40, what's the width? 40, right? So 40 times 40 would give me this square. Okay, let's go ahead and do that so we just have it simplified. 40 times 40, I'm gonna come over here and do it. Is 1600. Okay, so I already have my square. Now I need to add my semicircle. Okay, so it's 1/2 pi, remember pi is 3.14, times r squared. So what would my radius of this circle be? What would my radius be? Remember, radius is the halfway point of a circle. So if this whole thing is 40, what would my radius be? 20. So 20 squared. Okay, so I need to do the part that's in parentheses first. Okay, so 20 squared, that means 20 times 20. I'm gonna do that part first. 20 times 20. And I get 400. So now I have plus 1/2 3.14 times 400, sorry. Okay, so now I'm gonna multiply 400 times 3.14, because that's the next part that's in parentheses. I have 2 zeros, and then I'm going to cross those out and start with my 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, and I have 2 decimal places, so I get 1,256. Okay, so I have my square plus my semicircle, and I still have to simplify this one more time. So 1,256 times 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2. Okay, so I'm just gonna divide 1,256 divided by 2. 2 goes into 12 6 times. 2 goes into 5 2 times. And 2 goes into 16 8 times. So I have 628. So now I have 1,600. I know my work's kind of getting lost, but I have my 1,600 from my square. That's my square. Plus I have 628 for my semicircle. I found the area of both, and now I'm adding them together. So I have an answer of 2,228 inches, which is answer choice C. Okay. Now this one says, Hannah used red construction paper to make a decorative letter H for her bedroom. How much paper did Hannah use? So what shapes do you see in this letter H? I see a bunch of rectangles, right? So I'm going to draw where I can see them. I see 3, and I'm gonna make sure I have all my sides labeled, right? So if this is 18, that means this is 18 as well. Okay, this is 6. This is 6, but what is this, right? So this whole thing is 18. This is 6, and this is 6. So what would this be? It would also be 6, right? Because 6 plus 6 plus 6 would give me 18. Okay, so I have 3 rectangles. So there's 3 numbers I should be adding together, the area of each rectangle. Okay, so my first, I'm gonna label them 1, 2, 3. My first rectangle is 18 times 6. And I get 108, okay? My second rectangle is 6 times 6. 6 times 6 is 36. And my third rectangle is 18 times 6, again, so I get the same thing, 108. So I should add 3 together because there's 3 shapes. So I have 108 plus 108 plus 36. Okay, so I'm going to add them all up. 8 plus 8 plus 6. 8 plus 8 is 16. Plus 6 is 'so I get 252 as my answer. Okay, now on 3, I don't want you to do what the question's asking. I want you to actually find what the area is. Okay, so just ignore the answer choices. Okay, we're gonna actually find what this area is. Okay, so I'm going to first break it up into pieces. Okay, so how many shapes do you see on here? 3, right? 3 rectangles. Okay, so I'm gonna label them just like we did down here. 1, 2, 3. And I'm gonna find the area of each one. Okay, so my first rectangle, the width is 4. What is the length? Okay, this whole thing is 28. So what would this be if I know this is 10, this is 8, so that means this is 18. What would 28 minus 18 be? 10. I'd be left with 10. You can always double check it to make sure this adds up. Is 10 plus 10 plus 8 28? Okay, yes, and then we did that correctly. So my first rectangle is 10 times 4, which is 40. So that's rectangle 1. My second rectangle, okay, it says I have here's 10, but it doesn't let me know my length, right? But I know that this whole thing is 16, and I know that this part is 6. So what's 16 minus 6? 10, right? So my second rectangle is 10 times 10, which is 100. And then my third rectangle, it gave me both the length and the width, 16 and 8. So my third rectangle would be 16 times 8. 128. So how would I find the entire area of the composite figure? I would add all 3 numbers up. So I have 100 plus 128 plus 40. So my answer would be 268. Okay, the last question says, which expression can be used to find the area of the shaded region in the figure below? Okay, so what do we have? We have a rectangle, right? That's the shaded part. And we want to get rid of the white part. What shape is the white part? A semicircle, right? So we're going to be finding the area of the rectangle and subtracting the semicircle. Okay, how do I find the area of a rectangle? Length times width, right? So what is my length here? 2r, and my width is L. Okay, so I have 2r times L for my rectangle, and then I want to subtract my semicircle. Okay, so what did we do up here for a semicircle? What did we say? We said 1/2 pi r squared, right? That's just the formula. That's all they're wanting you to do, is just write down what you would do. You don't have to actually solve it because it doesn't give us enough information. Okay, so which one of these answer choices matches 2 times r times L minus 1/2 times pi times r squared? Right? Because 0.5 is the same thing as 1/2. Okay, now for your assignment to do on your own, you need to go onto the next page, page 172. Okay, and this page 172, and complete the assessment. And that is all you have for the rest of this week, for the last week of summer school.